Kenny Pickett, for the fourth week in a row, failed to reach 200 yards, had 106 yards against the Browns, goes 0 for 3 in that fourth quarter attempt for a comeback with a little over 2 minutes left in the game. Gives the Browns an opportunity to seal it. They do. I mean, the entire game, he looked pretty bad. I don't think I'm alone saying that. Have the Steelers hit a point in your mind where it may be time to consider a change with Kenny Pickett, or are you still giving this kid a little bit of leeway and saying maybe you stick it with him?
I think you can consider it. I think it's fair to consider making a quarterback change at this point, but I don't know if that's in the best interest of the Steelers in the short term. I think for right now, for at least another week or two, it's best to roll with Kenny, because I still think that you're in a competitive spot as a team. You're only 6-4. You're still kind of in the thick of the AFC playoff race, which is really competitive and really crowded. So unless you think there is an upgrade elsewhere on this roster, and I don't really think there is. I think there's just something different, which is very different. I think you got to continue to roll with Kenny, because I think he puts you in the best spot to be competitive and to maybe win games. I understand what that spot is. It's not particularly great. Kenny hasn't shown us a whole lot, particularly over the last 4 weeks, or 3 or 4 weeks, like you said, and really for most of this season, he hasn't shown us a whole lot, but I still think that he is better than Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. So I think if you are still serious about maybe competing for a playoff spot, then as the Steelers, I think you got to stick with Kenny Pickett. But you do that understanding that the ceiling might be a little bit low, and that you are continuing to win in ways that, and we're going to get to this in a second, but in ways that Najee Harris said just aren't sustainable, And so it's a rocky boat, but no matter how you slice it, that's how it's going to be. And I think Kenny Pickett makes the boat less rocky, the least rocky, of the three options that they have.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time to consider a change. I have a hard time saying that a change would be better. I kind of sit here and my thought is Kenny Pickett is not the guy, and I think at this point in his career, I kind of look at it, but I look at it in a bigger picture. I kind of think Matt Canada ruined him. And I tried really hard to avoid that narrative, but I just think that you watch a guy like DTR yesterday. You watch a guy, we were driving back from Cleveland and you saw the Brock Purdy stat that is just unreal. And I'm not saying Brock Purdy isn't a good quarterback. I'm just saying in a really good system, you could make average quarterbacks good or suitable or winnable. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers found themselves in a situation where Kenny Pickett was thrust into this. Maybe he wasn't capable of being a starting NFL quarterback yet. Maybe he'll never be capable of being a starting NFL quarterback. But you put him in probably the worst situation possible. And then you kept that situation going for another season. And I think there are a bunch of reasons that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense does not work. I think Matt Canada remains the biggest one. I think the fact that you, as an offense as a whole, just lack communication, are never on the same page. Your quarterback is regressing. These are all things, players regress sometimes and busts happen all the time, but you look pretty much anywhere. Literally everywhere. You look in New York, Zach Wilson isn't working out right now. Nathaniel Hackett is a guy that with Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs. People are looking at Nathaniel Hackett and saying, is he the reason Zach Wilson isn't the guy? And in Pittsburgh, is Matt Canada not the guy? I think to a degree, the Steelers kind of screwed Kenny Pickett out of early success and maybe kind of trying to find his footing this early in his career. And because of that, you've kind of hit a point right now where, maybe the best case scenario is to consider a change, open a quarterback competition. But I also definitely agree with you. Mitch Trubisky is not the guy. I wouldn't put Mitch Trubisky out there at all, no matter what. Wouldn't even consider it. And if I'm going to consider a quarterback, it's probably going to be Mason Rudolph. And I think at bare minimum, Mason maybe gives you just a little bit of, well, nobody's seen Mason Rudolph throw a football in 3 years. So, maybe a little sleeper effect, maybe some unknown there. he's also 5-4 as a starting quarterback with like a very average team around him, or at least an offensive team around him when he was the starter. But I think we both know the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they're not even going to consider Mason Rudolph. They wouldn't even look his way. They probably forget he's on the roster, let alone going to consider him a starting quarterback. I don't know. I think I agree with you. Like, I think that they're kind of stuck right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you make a good point about how a lot of these struggles, the miscommunications, the idea that none of these guys seem to be on the same page week to week, that comes back to coaching. And if you throw a new quarterback in there, that's fine, but all these guys are being coached under the same system, coached by the same guy. And if the coaching is failing you, and if the coaching is subpar, then how much a personnel change is going to affect that. How much can that change things? I feel like it's not very much, especially when you're working with a quarterback room that doesn't have a ton of talent to begin with. It's a pretty bleak situation, and I just don't see where the immediate solution is. I mean, I understand how frustrating it's been, but if they had a better option than Kenny on the roster, that guy would probably be starting right now. It wouldn't have taken this long to get there. And I think this is what kind of brings you to the realization that maybe the Steelers' problems offensively are a little more structural than attributable to one guy or to one position or to one kind of stretch of poor play. These are things that are at the root of who they are and how they're built. They've got issues not just at quarterback, but throughout the entire offense.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you can't, and that's like, it's such a harsh reality for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's also a hole that they dug themselves. Like, we talked about it all summer and all spring is Mitch the guy? Do you keep Mitch around? Do you get somebody else just in case? No, you just ignore it. It is what it is. Cool. Kenny's got to be the guy, but that's so much pressure. And then now it's falling apart. And like, I mean, we've been talking about Matt Canada for years. Like, that's not like a new conversation. And the Steelers have ignored all these things.